Good evening to you, all of you on the United States East Coast, and good day or good night or good morning to you wherever you are in the rest of the world. Welcome to Rhea Shack Ham Radio, broadcast every Saturday on WTWW shortwave at 2100 UTC or 4 p.m. Central. All right, so here we're going to actually talk about a few different things relating to amateur radio. And if you're new to the show, I am Rhea. My call sign is N2RJ, my ham radio call sign. And I'm an amateur radio operator. I've been licensed for about 25 years. And I'm here to share with you everything I've learned, well, as much as I can remember, and other good things relating to amateur radio. If you like what you hear, I do a lot of other things on YouTube, so you can go on YouTube and look for Rhea Shack Ham Radio. That's my YouTube channel, and I post a lot of videos. I do a live stream every Sunday. I also do live streams on Thursdays with my friend Kat, who is Dixie DX. So, we do a lot of good things. What are we going to talk about today? So today I'm going to actually talk a little bit about my experience with a local charter school, the Sussex County Charter School for Technology. I attended their radio club meeting. We're going to answer a few questions, which is, I take them from Ham Radio / New to the Hobby on Facebook, and I'll tell you how to send your questions in. We talk a little bit about the FCC and what's going on there based on my observations of the news. And we're going to feature an interview with Nil and Aishi from Oscar, India. Okay, they're a fantastic group out of India, and I'm really proud of what they're doing. All right, first things first, the news. So in the news this week, there have been a few different things. One of them, remember we featured MARS last week, right? The Military Affiliate Radio Service. Well, Military Auxiliary Radio System. Boy, did I mess that up. They will conduct an HF skills exercise Monday night, May 2nd through Saturday, May 7th to practice interoperability with the amateur radio community. So the high power broadcast begins on May 3rd at 0200 UTC, followed by a FEMA region net. This is on 60 meters, I believe. And they will continue for 4 more nights at 0200 UTC with a region net, and at 1200 local each day, May 3rd to 7th, Eastern, Central, Mountain, and Pacific. So the net will be called by region. MARS members will be reaching out to the amateur radio community via the 60 meters channel 1 net on 5330.5 kilohertz. These are directed nets, meaning that you have to listen to and obey net control. The nets will be run by region. And these are not typical. Everyone can check into the net. So these amateur radio operators who participate, they should listen first. And the net control will then call up by area. And, those who meet the criteria will be able to check into the net. So MARS stations will also reach out on amateur frequencies such as 80-meter traffic nets and other bands. Right, so thank you to the ARRL, and they sourced this story from Rob Hurd, N3HU, and Chief Army Mars, Paul English, WD8DBY. So that's in the news. The other thing in the news we're going to talk about is the FCC. Now, there are 2 items with the FCC. And the commission has always been caught a lot of criticism for having a bunch of lawyers and, not having engineering talent. Well, it looks like they're looking to fill some engineering talent, right? I mean, lawyers are important in the FCC because they deal with regulation and all that stuff, but you need a little bit of engineering talent too. So the FCC has started accepting applications for electronics engineers for the recent graduates in the Pathways program, which is located in the Office of Engineering and Technology in Washington, D.C. So the candidates should be recent graduates for this 1-year developmental program, which may lead to a term or permanent appointment. Training will cover the agency's policy and rulemaking processes, technical training for a wide variety of telecommunication services and technologies, and training on engineering and policy principles relevant to the fast-paced telecommunications industry. Additional duties and related training may also include performing propagation analysis of terrestrial, satellite, and/or airborne systems, or evaluating emission characteristics of various transmitters to validate coexistence with neighboring systems. So you can find this on USA Jobs. USA Jobs has all the government jobs in the United States. So, you know what? If you know somebody who's an engineering recent graduate, you might want to get them in touch and let them apply at the FCC. Speaking of the FCC, I believe it was last week, the fees went into effect, and that kind of had a little bit of problem. Their computers went down, and it went down hard a couple times. I don't know why, but I have my suspicions why, but the FCC's computers have not been functioning properly. I don't know, when this airs on Saturday evening, I don't know if they'll be back up, but the FCC has basically said to the amateur community, to VEs, don't submit any license applications because they will not be processed. And, this is unfortunate because a lot of people have to wait a lot longer. So I don't know when this is going to be fixed. I know they did delay the fees initially because of the computer problems, but now, the computers are down anyway. I do hope they get them back up because people do need to get their licenses. I'm trying to encourage a lot of people to get into amateur radio, and you can't really get into amateur radio without a license. So, it's a little bit of difficulty. And I really hope that this will be smoother. I mean, the FCC kind of sometimes operates on, at least on my view, from what I see as an outsider, their technology is probably a little bit vintage, in terms of the programming and such like that. Maybe they need to update some of their systems. Who knows? Whatever. Anyway, let's talk about the charter school. So, I'm a big fan of amateur radio in schools. I got licensed in school. And I've recently had the great pleasure to work on a project with a local school. Now, I'm going to be bringing them on the YouTube channel and possibly taking some segments and airing them here on the radio show. But this has been a real gem up where I live. So I'll tell you where I live. I live in Sussex County, New Jersey, and Sussex County is the northwesternmost county of the state of New Jersey. If you look on a map, you will see the corner up in the state of New Jersey where you have New York to the north and Pennsylvania to the west, and that little tri-corner where they all meet. And I live up there, and it's a very beautiful and rural part of the state. It's often overlooked by a lot of people. They say, oh, we didn't even know this was New Jersey. Well, yeah, it is New Jersey. Sometimes I think I want to keep it that way because it's nice and quiet, but we live the rural life up here. We still have a lot of farms. We have, not a lot, but we have more than a lot of other parts of the state. We have Stoke State Forest up here. Okay, Stoke State Forest is really nice and is beautiful. And actually there are some natural springs in Stoke State Forest that I go to, where I go and harvest some of the spring water. So I take maybe like 6 or 7 bottles, these big 5-gallon bottles. I throw them in the back of my Tesla. Yeah, the Tesla, okay? and then I fill the water and I bring it back home. I put it in my cooler. First of all, it's free, right? And second of all, it tastes pretty good. The state, their tests done on the water, so it's pretty safe. So it is picturesque up here. This school actually got involved in amateur radio through my friend Vince Colella. And he doesn't like to take any credit at all. KD2TMJ, right? And Vince is a guy with a very big heart, and he has a lot of big ambitions and for amateur radio, and he's just very enthusiastic, and I really like what he's doing. So he basically started this project with the school. We have a very engaged teacher, Mrs. DiCaprio, and her husband actually was a licensed ham back in the day. He got his ham radio license, I think, in like the 60s or something. And then he let it lapse. And then recently, he was a general back then, by the way. And recently, he got back his license. Now, I'll tell you, if ever you ever get out of the ham radio hobby, right, and your license expires and is long gone, that's okay, because all you need to do is take the technician test again. Okay, this is how it is in the United States, folks. I don't know about the other countries, right? But here in the United States, if you take your if you lose your license, meaning that you let it lapse, not if the FCC pulls your license, okay? If you let it lapse, all you need to do is take the technician test again, and then you will be fully restored to your previous class of license. Unless you were an advanced, well, what will happen is that you'll go down to general. If you were a novice, and well, there, you can't get back to novice, you could get back to technician. But anyway, Vince, one of the Vince, there are two Vinces, right? There's Vince Colella, and then there's Vince DiCaprio. So that's Mrs. DiCaprio's husband. So they actually went and they did the space station contact. So they went and applied for the contact and they were approved. And then last month, I believe it was in early March. They had the contact at the school. We had the antennas set up in the parking lot, and we had two ICOM 9700s, and that was pretty cool. And we had the students talking to Captain Mark Vanderhei, and Mark, Mark is a pretty good guy. He was, he answered a lot of students' questions very diligently. And unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, he spent a long time in space, okay? And he had to come back. So, it was always really, really, nice to have him. So, it's it's unfortunate. And, that whole thing got caught up in the whole Russia-Ukraine situation. But, well, what you going to do? I mean, threats were made to leave him stranded and such like that. But they didn't carry through with it. And I hope they don't. I hope good heads prevail, in all this. So anyway, yeah. But the students had fun, and they have a new interest in ham radio. So I've kind of been helping them out. I've been going to their school club. They have the meetings on Thursday afternoons. They got a grant through the ARRL Foundation to build a station, and we're getting some radios, and we're getting some ICOM. We're getting an ICOM 7300 from ICOM. We're also getting an ICOM 9700. Vince is going to bring one. One of the Vinces. And we're going to set that up. We're going to try to have an HF station and a VHF UHF station, but the VHF UHF station we want to have available for satellite communications, because I think we want to have the kids involved in that, and maybe they make passes on the ISS, and even the unlicensed students. So these are some good things you can do. If you have people with licenses, okay, like the teacher has a license, she could be the control operator. She needs to get her general. So when I'm there, I have an extra. I can operate as a control operator, and then the teacher could then talk, and the rest of the students could talk under my privileges, right? Because I'll be the control operator. But when you have the teacher license, with the proper privileges, she can get on as well. So they're going to have the HF station, the satellite station, and the satellite station, like I mentioned, will allow them to do things, not only transmit, but also receive slow scan TV pictures. And this is something I've been encouraging them to do, because the space station actually transmits slow scan TV. Now, those of you who don't know what slow scan TV is, slow scan TV basically is not a digital image, okay? It is analog, 100% analog. And what happens is they send basically the similar to a picture on your TV, but they send it ever so slowly. So your TV receives I think 30 frames a second, okay? Or 30 fields a second. And then But this actually slow scan TV takes like a full minute to transmit a picture. So, yeah. I mean, it's primarily the Russians doing the SSTV now, so we'll see how that goes. I don't know if the American crews or the European crews actually do any of that. Right, okay. So, with that, we're looking to build our stations really good. So, I think and we got an NFAD antenna kit from the ARRL as well, so we'll be putting that up. So what's next? So next we're going to take your questions here. And I've been scouting around a few questions from Ham Radio / New to the Hobby, which is our Facebook group. Well, it's one of the Facebook groups that I am in and that I moderate and that I help answer questions on. It's really a nice, friendly place to talk about ham radio, especially if you're new to the hobby, so that you can make the most of it. Really, I really want to encourage you to go and join there, and tell them you heard about it on Rhea Shack Ham Radio. People might come in and watch and listen to the show. So anyway, somebody asked an idea to run coax from the outside to the inside. So if you have antennas, right? The antennas work best when they are outside, right? When they're out in the open. Naturally, because inside the building, they're blocked by metal, wood, I don't know, whatever you have in your house. They just don't get out well, okay? How do you run it from the outside to the inside? Well, you can do a few things. I mean, the first obvious thing is to drill a hole on the side of your house, which might not be so good, but you can drill a hole. You can put a piece of conduit, and then, you could seal that off with some of that expanding foam. Or other things, you put caulk or whatever and make sure it's sealed tight so all the little critters don't get in, and then you run coax that way. That's certainly one way to do it. But what if you live somewhere you don't want to mess up the house, right? You don't want to do that. Well, one thing you can do is you can get one of these little window feed-throughs. So what they are is, I believe MFJ or I don't know, whoever, the ham radio stores sell them. They have, basically, it's a strip of either metal or plexiglass, and they have basically coax connectors on each end, and then you could plug in your coax and screw it in on the outside, and then you take a coax jumper on the inside, and you put it in, and you basically put it on the windows, on the window sash, I believe it's called. And then you bring down the window on top of it, and then that'll keep it closed so that in the winter it doesn't get too cold. And then your coax would come in. So that's one way to do it. Another way you can do it is, well, this is a little more complicated. Some radio equipment now is able to operate via Wi-Fi, and especially the Flex radios and the ICOM radios, you can actually set the radio out near the tower and then bring it in via Wi-Fi. That might work, okay? But I think the window feed through is the best idea. It's the cleanest and it's damage free, okay? Remember as well that you need to ground your coax when you're coming in, okay? Because you don't want to have this, ungrounded because of lightning and all that kind of stuff. All right, so next question is, what's the best way to program a handheld radio? So, there's a whole proliferation of these Chinese radios, Baofeng, Wuxing, TYT, TID radio, and all of these stuff. And I own a fair number of them, and these companies send me radios to test and such like that. I think a lot of them are good. I mean, there are some awful ones, that don't really, are not really fully compliant with FCC regulations. But you know what? There are some good ones too. I mean, what you going to do? Well, the good thing about these is that a lot of them come with the ability, and some of them come with the cable to program via computer. So one thing you might not know is that a lot of these radios are actually designed around commercial radios, and they're very difficult to program via the keypad. What you can do is you can get the software. Now, a word of caution, okay? This might vary. Some of these software has been reported as having computer viruses, like the ones you get on a CD with the radio. So I would try to bypass that completely. And there's a software package called Chirp, okay? Basically, it's a software program that allows you to program your radio with a cable. Good. You can get that and then program your radio. Some radios, one of the manufacturers might have said, well, don't program our radios with Chirp, use our program because Chirp causes problems. In the end, I think you really need to follow the manufacturer instruction in that case, but generally Chirp works well. And I've used Chirp to program all my Baofeng radios and such like that, and works well. Another thing you can get is TID Radio sells this little Bluetooth dongle that plugs into the side of Baofeng radios, and you can actually program that. You can actually plug that in and program it via Bluetooth via a smartphone app. Okay, so that's another option. Plenty of options. Oh, the radio that said don't use Chirp, I believe, was a Yaesu. Yaesu has their own software sold by a company called RT Systems, so you can use that. All right, Chris Lineman says, can I set up a dipole wire side of the house? Well, I think he means, can I set up a dipole wire on the side of the house? There are two things to keep in mind, okay, here. One of them is if you plan to run right up against a house, I would really look and make sure it's not going to get into my house wiring and mess up my TV and all that stuff. So I would be careful. There are some people who load rain gutters and such like that. That could work too. So let's talk about the dipole. You can do that. You can put one in the attic. I would say make sure it's not in the same direction as house wiring, because you don't want that to basically induce RF into your house wiring. The other thing is, please do not run high power through those, because those things can end up arcing on your house and it could burn your house down. Keep the power to 100 watts or less. Beyond that, you're going to have problems. Now, as far as using rain gutters, you can use them if they're metal, but what you might have to end up doing, and you want to be safe with the ladder and stuff, okay? Because I know some people fell. There's a local radio host here, Jim Gerhardt. He suffered an accident while he was climbing up to clean his gutters. What you want to do is where the gutters join each other, because they're rarely in a single section, okay? You want to bond both of them with a piece of copper strap, right? So there's a little screw hole. You might want to sand off a little piece, get a piece of copper strap, and then screw that on, and then screw it onto the other so you have a continuous bond. Because if you have any sort of resistance between both of them, that can cause your SWR in the radio to jump, and it could cause a ton of problems. And of course, if you're running power, you shouldn't really be running power, but off chance that you do, it could arc and spark and cause all sorts of problems. So it's something you generally want to avoid. I generally don't like using rain gutters because I think they're compromised, but if you're in an HOA, a homeowners association or condo, something, you might not have a choice. My personal suggestion for condo and HOA antennas is a flagpole. Be patriotic. Ham radio operators are patriotic, especially if that flagpole is 43 foot high. 43 feet is a very patriotic height to have a flagpole. So those are some questions for today. If you have any questions for me, I would like you to drop them to me at RIA, that's RIA, at n2rj.com. That's RIA, RIA, at n2rj.com. Basically, you can prefix your subject line with question, and then, tell me you heard it on WTWW shortwave, and we can go from there. All right, so our guests, I did this interview with this wonderful group. called Oscar India. And what Oscar India is doing, they're hosting something called open source classes for amateur radio. What they told me is they don't want to call it free because when you call it free, people don't appreciate it. They call it open source, which means that, it's freely available. People can take it, build on it, etc. They have a YouTube channel, Oscar India, and then you have VU3 Zulu Hotel Alpha, that's NIL. And then you have, at the time, you had this young girl, Aishi. She was studying for her license and she wrote her exam in India. They call it the amateur ASOC qualification, right? And she passed, by the way. So she is going to be licensed and get her amateur radio license. So here I'm featuring an interview with Nil and Aishi, and they're talking about all their videos and good stuff that they do in India. I really love connecting with the Indian diaspora because that's my heritage. But they do so many cool things. And I'll tell you one thing about India. They're not the richest country in the world. A lot of Indians, they can't afford the big radio equipment that we do. My friend Ashar Farhan was telling me that how, a lot of people in India, they have to make their own equipment because they can't afford the equipment. I get that. I can relate to that. So anyway, here they are, Oscar India. So hello there, and good evening to you there. And how are you today?
Good evening to everyone, and good evening from India, and good morning to you also. And we are very fine, and was just waiting for this conference.
Mm-hmm. So namaste to you as well. So tell me, you just had a festival, a very colorful festival called Holi, and tell us a little bit about that in India.
We are actually from Kolkata in India, and Holi is very much special for us, and it's all about the colors. And at the end of that particular day, no one can recognize us even. And I have uploaded many pictures in our community app, so no one can recognize that who is VU3 Zulu Hotel Alpha, who is Oishi, no one can recognize us. So we just played all the day with the colors, with the pictures actually, with the watercolor, with the powders, with everything.
Okay.
And we enjoyed that day fully.
Yeah, we have the same thing. We have the watercolors. We also have the powders in Trinidad and Tobago. Because you mentioned Kolkata, a lot of people, I believe on my father's side, we're from up in that area originally. And my mother's side is more from Punjab and that region. So kind of a whole fusion here. So tell me about amateur radio. What got you guys interested in amateur radio, and your call sign, if any?
Oishi, please continue first.
Hello, N2RJ. I'm Oishi, and I'm still an SWL.
Okay, that's good. I'm looking forward to the day you get licensed so I can make a contact with you.
Actually, I have exam on this Friday.
Okay, that's great. All right.
So wish you luck.
Hoping you get it.
Thank you very much.
And actually, when I was in college, from that time, I am in this hobby. I came in this hobby from that time. And my call sign is VU3 Zulu Hotel Alpha. And very soon, this call sign is going to upgrade. As you know that in India, we have two grades, actually. One is restricted, another one is general grade. So this VU3 is a restricted grade call sign. And by that ASOC examination, we are going to upgrade this in general grade. So
tell us a little bit. That's interesting. So here in the United States, we have three classes of license. Well, three current classes. We have the technician, the general, and the extra. They used to be two more. They used to be the novice and the advanced, right? And the FCC, our regulator, the FCC, they kind of simplified that in the year 2000. They also reduced the Morse code requirement. And Morse code, they got completely rid of Morse code requirement in 2007, I believe it was. So 2006, 2007, around there. So what is the process to get an amateur radio license in India?
Basically, we all have to attend the AOC examination, means Amateur Station Operator Certificate examination. And in India, there was 4 grade actually previously. But as per my knowledge, by the time 2000 to 2025, it has been simplified and merged 4 grade to 2 grade. And right now there is only restricted and general grade. So for restricted grade, there is only rules and regulation and electronics part is mandatory. But for general grade, one have to play and decode Morse with 8 word per minute.
So you still have the Morse requirement there?
Yeah. Still
What
have
is-
the Morse requirement.
What's the speed required in words per minute?
8 word per minute.
Okay, that's not too bad. You know, when I was licensed originally in Trinidad and Tobago, it was the Morse was optional, but if you wanted to take it, it was 12 words a minute. And you know, I learned the Morse code from a computer program and passed. So that's pretty interesting. Approximately how many radio amateurs in India?
Right now there is 25 to 30,000 amateurs.
Okay.
And as last year was the 100 years, 100 license year in India actually, means in 1921, the first license was issued for India. So in last year's 1921 was the 100 years for India, amateur radio license practice. So last year, hope 700 around license was issued.
Okay, that's interesting. We have about 700,000 to 800,000 here. And okay, so what inspired you to get into amateur radio? What inspired both of you to get into amateur radio, I should say?
At first, you.
Okay, so basically, I love to listen and hear actually. So DXing, I love just DX. And previously, when I was in college, I'm from technical background actually. So not from electronics, and so when I get enlightened with amateur radio, so along with DXing, there was one add-ons option, like in disaster time, I can help our society.
Right.
So this was the add-ons option for me. So it attracts me very much. And from that time, as per my capacity, as I have a technical institution here in India, so in my institute, also in other colleges and university, we just try to promote amateur radio in a manner with among the students.
Okay, that's interesting. And so you're involved more in the technical side. And Aishi here is, how did you get involved?
That was back in 2018. I was probably in class 6. I saw sir doing the Morse codes, and I got generally interested. That the sound of the Morse was literally pleasant to my ears. I fell in love with the sound, and that's how, like, after talking with sir, I came to know that there is a communication that uses wireless communication over the radio.
Right.
And I came into the hobby for the absolute love of the radio. I love to hear, I love to communicate. So I do hope that I get the license and I can put much more effort into the hobby.
Well, I'll tell you something. From based on what I see from your videos, you're very, very knowledgeable. You know, for a young lady, I'm telling you, you're learning a lot, and it's always good to learn. You know, it's like these days, so many.
There's no end to learn.
Right. So many people are not. You know, they're not into it like you are.
That's what I want to do, to create awareness and to promote amateur radio more into the youth of today's India.
Good. Now tell me, in terms of what do you guys do on the YouTube channel?
Actually, we started YouTube channel, you can see then in 2021. Previously not. Actually.
18th April was our first date we launched, like we filmed our first video.
18th
Okay.
April. And for this video, for 2 minutes video, we have to work out for 2 days actually.
I was so nervous at the beginning.
Right. Okay.
So actually, as I have said that I was promoting amateur radio among all students, as in my institute, also in other universities and colleges. But when COVID came actually, so I was thinking like, how can I promote? And
Right.
I cannot stop. So that time in 2020 March actually, we have started our first online classes actually in March.
Okay.
But after that, after few classes, we have to stop because of the technical issues. And after that, again in August, we have again started. So technically, the birthday of Oscar is 15th August actually, 15th August. So, and this name Oscar, so many times I have been asked that how you named this. So actually, previously the name was Open Source Webinar. So suddenly one day from our team member one have said that, Anil, if you change webinar to class, then it can sound more good.
Right.
So I then changed that open source classes, and then previously it was open source webinar for amateur radio, and he changed that open source classes for amateur radio, and Oscar is our satellite also.
Okay.
So it's a catchy, it sounds very catchy. So from then we are running with the Oscar.
Okay. So like some of the topics you guys have mentioned, like getting licensed and such in India, and here in the United States, of course, we have the 3 classes. Have you ever considered beyond the license, like a lot of things, like teaching people how basic operation and such, because I get a lot of requests for basic operation videos, and I do some of them, right? And I do the live streams.
Yes.
So in terms of like
yes, exactly. We have started trained technically more, but not till now, not via YouTube actually.
Okay.
We took few classes. Occasionally means in 2 or 3 in a month actually.
Right.
But we are planning that in near future, if we can, because we also in India, we also get so many requests regarding the operations, not only related to the radio, but also how to communicate over when they will come on air.
Okay. Now tell me, are you involved with any amateur radio organizations in India?
Right now, Oscar, we are planning to register Oscar. Till now, Oscar is a forum actually.
Okay.
And Oscar is running under the Smart Future Foundation by the name. It's a charitable organization actually.
Okay, good.
And very soon, we are going to register Oscar actually.
Right. Now there is a national society in India, I believe is ARSI, Amateur Radio Society of India. Do they provide any guidance, support, or anything for you guys, or are they just saying good job, keep it up, or are they just not doing anything?
What can I say? Moral support and guidance we receive from everyone. That one I can say.
Well, here in the States, and this is a good thing for other societies to follow as well. Our new CEO, so we hired a new CEO, David Mincer, NA2AA, and he's a really good guy. He's so I sought him out originally when he was when we need a new CEO because the previous one had left, and one of the things he likes to do is he likes to bring the YouTubers. Well, like we have all these YouTubers that like Ham Radio Crash Course, Ham Radio 2.0, and these guys, and all the smaller ones too. They did produce content for ARRL. So I think if ARSI is listening, maybe they should look to work with you guys to make some content, because it's education. A lot of people want the education, right? And it's good stuff. So Now let's get into some of the challenges and stuff you guys have. I know like in India, it's like different from the States where we have access to a lot of things. What are some of the challenges you guys face there?
Actually, if honestly I say that there's few ham from India like View to JOS, Jose Jacob,
Right.
and View to Hotel Whiskey or Rajni Mohan. Few hams from I mean, they help us in a true manner. Whenever we face any issue, we called at night also to Rajni Mohan sir also, and many ham help us in a manner to solve the issue.
Okay.
But not from any organization till now. And we, the team Oscar, exactly working on this particular issue because as my basic background is from cyber security. So in that background, I have seen that there is no issue of content and awareness and nothing. Everything is available. But when I came to the hobby in amateur radio, and amateur radio nowadays is not just a hobby as per my opinion. So it's more than hobby.
Right.
So here the main crisis is the unavailability of content. So we just try to make the content, and Oscar is the only group in India right now.
Yeah.
There are students from the different corner of India. From Kashmir, it's from Jammu, it's from Bangalore, it's from Kolkata, from different part of India, and we train them rules and regulation, and we try to train them in a manner electronics also, but it's not possible completely actually. But we try to train them with the amateur radio service as per the Indian Act thoroughly, and try to provide them all the knowledge so that they can crack ASOC examination, because it's the issue. Crack ASOC sometimes it's not very easy.
Yeah.
So we also try to provide the solved papers and like that. So we are working in this manner.
So
And about content,
Go
I and
ahead.
sir both research, and I show him that is this good, and he says like you should add this or you should add this. Then it becomes a good content. So like we
Okay.
both do the full research work and the film.
right. So Aishi, I want to ask you a question. Is there? Go ahead. Have you talked with a lot of ladies who are in amateur radio hobby in India, or do you feel alone, or do you feel that there's not a lot?
I won't say that there are a huge number. I won't say there are less number of ladies. It's somehow moderate. I have met ladies who are wire, but I want to meet more ladies who are wire.
Okay.
So I used to convince everyone, like, there's a hobby named amateur radio. You can learn many things from this. Come join us, join our community, be a part of the family. And some do get motivated.
Okay. My friend VU2RBI, she's always on, and she has a net every morning, my time, every evening your time. And I hope when you get your license, maybe you could come and join us, a few times at least. But yeah.
But
Yeah,
still now VU2RBI control the net almost regularly.
Yes, she's very determined. I really admire what she does. And you had who else was there? You had, I think, Indian, I don't know if it was a prime minister, VU2RG, Rajiv Gandhi was a ham. And wasn't who else famous from India was radio amateur? And but anyway, you guys also
Amitabh Bachchan is also famous actor. Amitabh Bachchan is also a license holder.
That is exactly right. Amitabh Bachchan. Who could forget? I watched so many movies with him. And so many he produced. He's big. Yeah. He is the big man. And I saw a video about him. That's interesting. Good.
Also Kamal Haasan. Okay.
That's good stuff. So you mentioned you like to build your own equipment. I had Ashar Farhan, VU2 ESC, on the channel one time, and he was talking about, building radios, simple equipment. Do you guys build anything, or do you modify, do any soldering or anything?
Till now, we build a small radio transceiver,
Mhm.
and still now we are limited to the up to the antenna. But we, along with our team, actually there are in our team, Orun, VU3 MZE, Mike Zulu Eco is also there,
Okay.
and he's from the fully technical background, actually electrical engineer. So he and our many students actually try to work on a HF transceiver at least. But
Okay.
regularly our students and we are regularly building the antenna and small transceiver. That's it.
Would you like to see the antennas?
I would like to see your antennas, yes.
You have this. She with
This is the small version.
Okay. What is that? That's made with a tape measure, PVC pipe or something? Ah, okay. Now that is cool. Okay.
It's stuck.
okay.
So that's made with a tape measure or something else?
Measurement tape she used actually.
Okay, right. Yeah, they use similar things here. And that's good. It's nice and portable.
Have to repair the antenna also.
Yeah.
And this is the 4 elements antenna.
Okay.
Quite
Okay.
heavier and quite bigger.
Right.
It is not fitting in the video ratio.
That's okay, but no, it's nice to see. It's nice to see. It's very nice to see. Nice to see you guys are building that. So, okay, anything else you want to tell me?
Oishi has many questions. Actually,
Yes, I
Let
do
her-
have some questions. Like the thing which fascinates me, the whole thing which fascinates me about you is how do you take out the time for content creation on YouTube? Like, give me some tips. Like, you are the director of a whole division, but you still come up with the time. I need to know.
All right. So yeah. So people who know me know that I am one of the directors of ARL. The ARL duties are actually not. They're not like like a full-time job, right? I still do for full-time job with software and engineering. How I do it is, I manage my time. I divide up my day into blocks of time that I do for things. I have a video filming day. I have my 2 live stream days. And I actually took some courses in regard to time management. So, you have to be organized, otherwise you will fall completely apart. So I'm organized, right? That's one thing. And 2, I made a lot of things very efficient. Like when I record my videos, I make it in a workflow that I don't have to do a lot of editing, because editing is what takes the time. Okay. And on the live stream now, I have new live stream equipment that allows me to do things a lot easier with just simple push buttons rather than, having to go and click mouse and all sorts of stuff. So that's basically how I do it. I mean, I'm driven to do a lot of things in amateur radio. And the reason I'm driven is because amateur radio has given me so much in terms of career and, friends and everything. And I just feel that I need to give back. The ARL has been, they're very, very, they're very much changing organization right now. When I got on board, we had a lot of things to fix. And, by and large, we fixed a lot of things. And then now we're still going into the future. So I think right now, a lot of things are not as pressing as they used to be, but we still have to spend a lot of time. But yeah, I just want to make a difference, like you, I want to make a difference. What else you want to ask? You want to ask about my kids? My
Yes,
kids,
another
they
question.
go ahead.
How ARRL helps, like you are like ARRL assigns the worldwide spectrum. So how you help the clubs, other clubs, worldwide clubs? How?
How do I help the worldwide clubs, or how do we help the worldwide
Yes,
clubs?
or organization. I just need the answer.
Sure. Yeah. So we actually
You might
help,
tell me the both, how you and the organization helps.
right. So
I
my
want my
I
friends.
right. So I set policy for the ARRL to do things that will help clubs and such like that. Right. We have, like, right now we're working on a new grant program for clubs here in the States. Right. So clubs that have needs to buy equipment, that needs to buy things for classes and such like that, we will supply them money. We have a foundation called ARDC, which is supplying us with money to give to clubs, right? Internationally, we work with the IARU, the International Amateur Radio Union, and we are the international secretariat for the IARU. And what happens with the IARU is that they work with the member societies in the various countries. Apart from that, the ARDC Foundation actually, which is independent of ARL, by the way, they work with various projects in different countries to help. Like, for example, a club in a country needs new repeater, they need to set up some classes. They need an educational, they're doing an educational initiative, building a station, a school. They will take a proposal from them, and then, they will evaluate that proposal and then give the grant money to them based on successful proposals. So, all those things could help. Mostly though, we are there to provide support and basically give the clubs what they need, whether it be, monetary with this new club grant program, whether it be other resources, such as we have one director who helps with clubs with their legal matters, right? Like getting, all the incorporation paperwork and stuff with the government, so that, they could take donations that are tax deductible and all sorts of stuff. So it's all sorts of things, all sorts of little things. And as far as policy that I work on personally, I work on administration and finance for ARRL, meaning that we work on the financial matters, making sure that, budgets and everything are approved. We also work on IT, making sure that we have all the computer resources and such like that. So interesting stuff.
Any question?
Thank you.
Oh, no problem. I'll tell you about the kids, because I'm always inspired by young people who get into amateur radio. I'm hoping my kids get licensed. My kids are 11. They're triplets. They're 11.
Oh my God.
I'm
That's
trying to get.
Oishi is still trying from last 3 years actually, and hope
Okay.
this year.
Hope this year is going to be the last year I'm applying for the license.
I really
I
hope
get
you
the
get.
license.
I see the enthusiasm, and quite frankly, for me, when I was getting licensed, one of the biggest things was the math formulas. But I became better at the math in school, right? And then I passed. It was not hard. After a while, after practice, lots of practice. I took a lot of practice. So I hope you do good, and I hope to see you come back and say, I am VU3 whatever.
Yes.
Good.
Oishi has your full, one secret thing I would like to share. Oishi has your full biodata actually. By the website of hudson.arl.org, Oishi has your full data.
I
She
like
has
to
the
research on people, on things. I like to research on people who inspire me. You inspire me, that's why I have done research on you.
Oh, good. Thank you.
And your story is very inspiring. Like, it inspires me to be a better version of myself, to promote the hobby more effectively.
Okay. Well, you know what? I think you will make your own story. I think you have very far to go,
Bless
and
me.
I work with colleagues in India, and the things they do, they're very hardworking. So I'm very, very happy to see you do this.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I think we're about to ready to wrap it up. If you have anything else you would like to say.
For everyone throughout the globe, we would like to share that we have a website, so they all can visit, and we are trying to put all the digital content in our website also by next month, actually by April exactly. And in India, we will keep promoting this hobby as per our best capacity, and we definitely would like we need support from every experts. So that's it from our end, that we will keep promoting this hobby in a manner, and it was open source, it is open source, and it will be open source actually. And we never use free, actually, this word,
Right.
because nothing comes free. So everything for free content we have to pay, actually. But if we in our software segment, if we see Linux or any other softwares, so they are doing a good job in open source manner. So that's the same thing what Oscar is exactly doing, and will keep continuing.
And what I will say is that if you guys really want to see more, you really need to subscribe to their channel. I will put a link down below, Oscar India, and you can subscribe to their channel. You can see a lot of their videos. They have a lot of short videos. Some people don't want to spend half an hour watching a video. Some people might want something in 2 minutes, so they have a lot of that nice short content you can just quickly look at on your phone. You just take your phone and you watch, and then when you're done, you put it down, so that's good. That was really nice to hear. I mean, Aishi, she worked so hard for her exam, and she's been presenting all these topics and channels, so I'm really glad to hear that she passed and that she's able to now truly be a part of the amateur radio community. She's just waiting on her call sign. Her exam, she's also having exams in school, so that's kind of keeping her busy. Hey, who knows? Maybe she has a bright future ahead of her. There are a few other students on Oscar India, who take part and create some videos for the channel. It's really interesting. There's a lot of interesting things going on in India, and I'm going to probably try to bring a few more guests. On the Two Ticks in a Radio show, we actually had Ashar Farhan, who is the creator of the BitX radios, BITX, and he basically was talking about all the the challenges they have in India with equipment and such like that. Some of the same challenges I faced in Trinidad and Tobago. So, we can definitely relate here. And one thing I also found is that there's also a lot of spectrum challenges in India. They don't have as many amateur bands that we do, and such like that, so they make do with less than we do. But you know what, their spirit perseveres on. So until next time, I guess I'll see you around. And to all my friends in Ukraine, everybody in Ukraine, you are in my thoughts and prayers every day, and I really hope that this situation comes to an end and that we can make contact on the radio again, because I really want to make contact with you guys again, and under better circumstances. And of course, we're hoping to a swift end to this war and everything else. But in the meantime, you know what? You can listen to us on shortwave radio, and I really like to thank Ted and Holly for making this possible, and the rest of the WTWW shortwave crew. Thank you very much. Until next week, this is Ria, November 2, Romeo Juliet, saying peace and 73.